And 3, 2, 1. I just felt like being
Yeah. There should be some sort of countdown. Feel the rhythm. Feel the rhyme. Get up, man. It's rise and shine time.
Exactly. Oh, I actually just wanted you guys to know I could count. So, now that you know that. And I can count back.
That was a lot of credibility.
Yeah.
You're on the right show, okay? Like, I'm on with people that can count. This is perfect. We're good. McLean Warren here with Rise and Shine. Welcome, everyone. I am here with my awesome 2 co-hosts who I pretty much need no introduction at this point, but I'll let you guys introduce yourself anyway. Starting with Dan.
Dan Trumbull, DanTrumbleConsulting.com.
I'm Brendan Fields, owner of Rize.com.
Nice. And Angelica, the special guest host, or guest host,
special guest host. Angelica, huh?
I said you're not allowed to. Well, you can host if you want to. You'll probably be. I am at this point.
Angelica Hoyos with digitalmarketing.com.
I love that name. How did you guys come up with it?
My initials. It's not that original.
I love that because it sounds like an aha moment. It's like, I figured it out.
It's like, my initials.
See, my initials would have been like, So it's actually works out well, but I never would have known that if you hadn't said that. I just thought like, you guys were around like a business table trying to come up with names, and someone's like, aha, I got it, we'll call it Anyway, love the name. For people that don't know, I have known Angelica. We figured it out for almost, 4 to 5 years within that time span. We worked together at another Amazon consulting company that's fairly well known, and we both went our separate ways. And Angelica was a graphic artist and is by nature. You went to school for that, right?
Right. Yeah, that's what I went to school for graphic design.
So you've been doing graphic design up until what? Just really recently? Huh?
Well, no, I mean, I started. I went to school for graphic design, but my personality cannot stay, like 9 till 5 doing only graphic design. So I've like had periods where I used to get a job with just doing that, and then I would just go crazy and then try to, go in and do something else, because it's just like, I figured out, I'm like, all right, I love the design aspect of it, but it's just not for me to sit, like to doing it 40 hours a day, 40 hours a week.
Click the mouse 10,000 times a week. Yeah.
And I call it by working with her. I think you and I were both like that, because we were always like getting up to get coffee and then on our phones and then doing something else and then going back to our computer.
And then I'm like thinking about, 1,000 ideas of how I'm going actually to improve their business. And they are like looking at me like, another suggestion, Angelica? And I'm like, yes. Like, sorry. Just can't help it.
Like, you're supposed to just sit there, look pretty, and do your job. We don't need any.
You're a graphic designer. And I'm like, I know. It's miserable here. Like, I need to give you suggestions on how to make things better. But yeah, so graphic design, and then I did that. My first job was actually Ogilvy and Mather, which is a huge, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to work at a huge advertising agency and see what it all looks like in there. And we worked with American Express, and it felt super fancy to like walk in the building and say that I was working for with American Express campaigns. But when I was actually like in there, I was doing like like doing like the keywords for the stock imagery in their like the stock gallery for American Express, and my title was junior art director, but I wasn't really doing that. So it was very like, every job that I found was very like frustrating. So I was like, I need to do something else where I'm actually like thinking. So then that's when I moved to LA, and I did photography, and I opened up a small photography studio there, and I spent 6 years there doing that. And there I started doing more of like the branding aspect. I worked with was a like a Beverly Hills campaign. And that was pretty cool to see like a project from the beginning and like being involved in there. I was the photographer, but seeing how like they put together a product and then they licensed the Beverly Hills logo and how they did, you know, like these crazy marketing campaigns that wasn't really like, it was just a lot of investment up front, but not a lot of return because they make a lot of these like huge events, and how much product are you going to sell, you know, like after that they're like investing, I don't know, thousands and thousands of dollars in these like fancy events, but it's like, you know, like how much product did you sell, you know? And like now, and that's like the way that they did things back then, like 2008. And now like fast forward, you're like, God, you could have spent that in like pay-per-click, you know, and like gotten a return, like a much better return on that money. So it's kind of like been a trajectory like that of like just observing how people do their marketing, and they start with a product and they're like, people just like take different avenues towards marketing. And then at the agency that I worked with, McLean, I think like there, what we learned was just like, people don't buy things, you know, like it's not, they're not buying a coffee cup, like they're buying the emotions behind it. And that's what we used to like, okay, how are we going to sell this, you know? And like, and it was just like, oh, it's just a coffee cup, you know, but it's a lot more than that, you know? So like, that's what we would do with McLean. Like, and that's like, you know, part of the branding. You're not selling plastic, you're selling a feeling, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's super interesting. So you've seen both sides of it, from the huge American Express, and now you work with small businesses, right?
Yeah.
Well, how transferable are the concepts? Like, obviously the budgets are on totally different playing fields, but like, do the concepts stay consistent from the biggest businesses to small businesses, or do you take a different approach when trying to advertise and market for a small company with maybe one or two products?
Yeah, I think like the principles, marketing principles are still the same. Like you're selling emotions, and that's what marketing is, and it will always be, right? Like the psychological like part of it. We're always going to be humans trying to, you know, be better and trying to be loved and trying to, you know, belong somewhere. And that's what essentially like they're trying to like sell us with their products. So like that like basis of like the principles of marketing, it's always there. American Express is offering their own, you know, emotional connection. But then like what they do with those marketing budgets, like there was activations, you know, which is like huge, like, you know, people like the activation events that they would do. And like, it's like such huge budgets, you know, for just to go and like create an experience for American, or, you know, at a shopping mall or something like that, you know? So it's just like different, yeah, like different uses of because there's so much money, you know, and I think like that won't end, you know, but I think now what they're doing is like, even like the huge companies, it's like that a huge portion of that is going to digital, you know, and even like coming up with their own like e-commerce. Like I was telling McLean, I'm like, it's crazy that like Coca-Cola, for instance, was always like B2B, right? Like they're selling to like the distributors, they're selling to Publix, they're selling to, but now they have like their own e-commerce company, and they're selling, you know, like little bottles with like your name on it, or like shirts. So it's like now even these huge companies are like e-commerce, you know, Facebook ads and all like that budget for like, you know, events. It's probably going towards that, you know, because it's a lot. It's like the return, it's like almost immediate, you know?
Yeah.
So
it's also much more measurable. You know what I mean? Like if you do kind of one of these nebulous events, like you said, at a mall or something, and you're going to sell a bunch of product, and you're going to have a bunch of people get exposed to that brand and that message. But ultimately, it's much harder to track the return on investment at that type of event than an e-commerce / pay-per-click type advertising. So I can see why there's the shift.
yeah, exactly. Like you can't really track it, you know,
Right.
and you don't know what worked and what didn't. And yeah, so it's yeah, it's shifted. It's shifted, and it's still shifting. I mean, it's only been like 20 years, right? Like the internet. So
Right.
we're still in a That's every time I think about that, I'm like, God, it's not long ago, right? Like,
It's not.
Well, and we had videographers on and photographer on last week to talk about similar stuff with branding and e-commerce. And one of the things that one of them brought up was the difference between going into an actual store or into a mall or whatever, where you can actually pick up something and you can feel it and you can smell it and you can have that full exposure to the product to know if you want it. Like, for example, a candle. Like you can actually like pick it up, smell it, do all those things I just said. Whereas online, you have to purchase with your eyes, right? So that adds a whole new element of trying to come up with how to humanize that product so that, like you were using the example of the coffee cup, like how do you explain to someone that can't pick that coffee cup up or feel it in their hands or take sips from it, how do you make them want to purchase it as much as if they were at a Starbucks trying to buy that same mug?
yeah, exactly. And that's why I think like graphic design, and that's why I'm happy that I have that background and with like photography, and they all seem sort of like unrelated when I mean, they're all like creative. That's what's in common. But I think that's the importance of it, because you're missing those like other senses. You have to make it up with photography, with design, and like create that experience, like visual experience. Like for instance, like Target does an amazing job. Like everything that they do is so beautiful. Like they create these ads that look like wrapping paper, and the ads actually move like the wrapping paper, and they have like this glitter, so it's like so visually stunning that you almost feel like you're actually looking at like real like glittery paper, and it's like things that like a non-creative person would completely totally miss, but you're definitely adding that like that thing that you're missing, like you're saying, like at the store, but it's like your eyes are drawn to this like literally moving thing that like you would probably have that experience when you walk into Target.
Yeah, and to that point, so what they're doing, as you know better than anyone probably, is they're creating that emotional response that you were talking about. In this case, it's connected to that kind of childhood hot cocoa Christmas morning, that feeling you really can't get anywhere else. But if you can recreate, Coca-Cola does a great job with it too. As a matter of fact, they retained an artist you may or may not have heard of named Norman Rockwell,
Right.
who reinvented what we think of as Santa, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the modern day version of Santa, the chubby guy with the rosy red cheeks, big long beard, white Coca-Cola red suit, all that. That's all Coca-Cola. That's all marketing, and a hell of a job. So like, I agree, Target does a great job with it. There's a bunch of companies that do a great job with it. The one thing they all have in common, which you mentioned earlier, they're trying to create an emotional response.
Exactly. Yeah, and like tapping into that like inner child that buys.
For
Like
sure.
that's and it's like
The
the
warm
adult
and
is trying
fuzzy.
to like don't buy that. But I
Yeah.
want it.
In my organization, I call it buyer joy, and I say it's the opposite of buyer's remorse. Like when they get the package, we want to continue that buyer joy. So even the presentation, what's in the box itself, the labels, all that stuff is an opportunity to brand, market, and create even at the tiniest emotional response. But like I buy from a supplier and they have customized printed tape, kind of like Amazon tape.
Mhm.
And every time I get it, I know their packages, I know their logo, it's in my head, and I don't have the warm and fuzzy Christmas, but I know whose package it is, and I know it's here on time, and it's brand recognition over and over and over. And what does that tape cost them? I don't know, $1 more a roll, 100% worth it.
Yeah, exactly. I think like one of the things that like we yearn, like as humans, we want certainty, right? So it's like we want to feel certain that whatever, and like brands that offer that, like we keep going back because you're gonna get the same product, you're gonna get the same experience, and when they shift, we're like, oh no, wait, this, and then you lose people,
Right.
So it's like, yeah, that's why it's fascinating, because there's so much psychology in it,
Yeah. Now seems like a good time for me to talk about the McRib coming back. I don't know if you guys, but so like the McRib,
Okay, right now, guys.
the McRib at McDonald's is seasonal, and it's a marketing concept. It creates kind of a false sense of demand. So when it goes away, people that eat McRibs, I'm not saying whether I do or not, I'm just saying people that eat McRibs become sorely disappointed, and then when they come back, there's this massive demand and almost like a celebration. I heard a commercial for a McRib today while I was in the shower on Spotify. So, and it was almost an arrogant type of commercial, like, this is the sweetest, kind of this guy with this deep smoky voice, the sweetest sandwich. It doesn't need to be, this, that, or the other. And then it's just like McRib. Right. And a large percentage of people are indifferent about that, but McRib people are like, hell yeah, McRib's back, So, and that's an emotional response. It's
right to McDonald's.
well, I don't eat the McRibs in the shower. Is that what you asked?
No, I was picturing you in your towel just running down the street.
Oh yeah.
That's what I was thinking too.
I put underwear on at least.
It's like multitasking, like drying and then ordering a McRib.
Right.
Thank God for Uber Eats.
It's such high demand, Dan. You don't even have time to get dressed. You got to get over there.
That's right. And that's almost how they make it feel, like you're going to miss out, and again, that's an emotion, the FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. That's another
fear of missing out.
Right. That's another emotional response that if you can, and it's very manipulative when we get down into this, into the minute parts of marketing, but that's what marketing is. We want to make you feel or do certain stuff. And it's not bad stuff. It's just this stuff instead of that stuff. We want you to buy this product, not that product, or this product because of this reason.
Right.
So, and you can, as you know, Angelica, you can do that in a number of ways. So I agree 100%. The emotional response will always get you a customer, but also keep you that customer maybe for life.
Right, exactly. The emotional response, and then what it says about you, and there's just so much. Like the scarcity is a big one. Like now with like the digital courses, the funnels that I'm sure you guys are, or I don't know if you're familiar with like the whole system, right? Like the landing page and the opt-in, and if the program closes in 5 days if you don't buy it now. And it's so like, I've bought like 3 courses like that. And I'm like, oh God, now it's going to end. And I'll just, like buy it. And it's not, 500, like I've spent like 2,000, like 3 courses and $2,000. And I'm like, God, like this is really good marketing.
Very effective.
It's very effective because they have everything, like the irresistible offer, right? That you're just like, oh, they know me so well. And then the scarcity, like this is closing tomorrow. So, and then they make you feel bad about it, which is like, people that take action, promptly are the people that are most likely to succeed or whatever it is, and you're like, yeah, you're right. I'm going to buy it. But everything is, it's playing with our emotions. But that's why we have to create like good products, right? So you don't feel guilty about playing with people's emotions.
Well, it's funny you brought that up because I was having a conversation recently with someone regarding services versus products, right? So for products, they actually have a monetary value, really, because you have to manufacture it, you have to ship it, you have to pay for its landing costs and for, like it to be held up, you have to pay for all this stuff, right? But for services, and then you have the overhead costs of everything else, the marketing, all that. For services, while there are costs, you really don't necessarily have to place a value on a service, right? Because at the end of the day, the overhead for a service, it's just as valuable as you make it. So it's really interesting when a lot of these like gurus and and us being in the Amazon community, we're always, and even in the e-commerce community, we're always being told, oh, it's your last chance to get 50% off of this course.
Yeah.
Or, it's only going to be 10%, $10 for this course, but it's only going to last for this amount of time. When you really think about it, like, you can offer that at any point because there's no actual price on that as it would be a product. Whereas a product, you can't as easily say, oh, it's going to be, free, or it's going to be 10% off. I'm just making up numbers because
Right.
you still have an overhead for that. It still has to cost you something out of pocket. Whereas a service, other than your time, doesn't cost you anything out of pocket. So
Right.
I guess my point is, be weary of people that are selling you on services, because the value of those aren't quite as obvious or as succinct as something like a product.
Yeah, services. I mean, services, I still like, I think because there is like a time component, right? So you can't really like, it's like, how do you measure, and it also depends on like what they know and like their expertise and the length, like how long have they been in their career, and like all these things, like they can add cost, right? Like they can make it more expensive or less expensive, but these digital products, like how much does the digital product really cost? How much does a course cost? Like you record it once and then that's it.
That's a great point. So like all four of us provide some sort of service. And there's really no overhead other than a marketing budget, et cetera,
Right.
other than the time we invest. So I don't use that method. I don't think any of you do either, where there's scarcity, or, I mean, sure, you run sales or whatever, but ultimately, I think that it's really important that when you buy services, that it's spelled out, like, what are you going to do for me?
Yes.
I've used Rebate a couple times. I have clients that have used it, and it is spelled out in black and white. This is what you're paying for. This is what is going to happen. And there's never been an issue with that. With my services, anytime I quote anybody, I spell it out. I'm going to build this website. We're going to get this much traffic. It's going to be done by this time, or we're going to launch your product on Amazon this way, and blah, blah, blah. So if someone is selling you some sort of multi-$1,000 nebulous kind of like, oh, it's going to be great, and there's nothing spelled out of what they're going to do, that's probably a hustle.
And you can just guarantee you they're going to offer it again in a month.
Right. It's kind of like mattress companies and car dealerships, right? There's always a sale going on.
There's always going to.
There's friends of mine that own mattress companies. They'll hate that I said that, but sorry, guys.
Back before there was Prime, you could set your inventory level on Amazon, and nobody really knew what you had in stock. So you could have thousands of product units, and there were software tools that would always change it to 5. You'd sell the 5, it would go back to 5 or whatever you set it at, and it worked very well. And now it doesn't work because with Prime, Amazon knows what you have in stock, and there's no way to override that. But I know specifically a couple of people that are working on a tool to do that, where it has an API with Amazon that will always change your inventory level to show some, scant quantity. And it really does work. And they know for sure, they have studies, it increases sales by like 15% by just knowing
sure.
that scarcity. It's so I don't know if it's ethical in all cases, but it works. It definitely works.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, if in real time on Amazon, if there's a pair of cute boots that I want, and they're like, there's only 2 left, oh yeah, I'm gonna buy that. Like, no way.
I actually think Amazon does it, because I've seen products sold by Amazon, even Amazon Basics products, and it'll show always a few left for days and days. Like, I think they're doing that with their own products.
I couldn't agree more. I bought an air conditioner in the spring, an Amazon Basics air conditioner. It's fine. Amazon Basics, it works, and it was like 2 left. I'm like, oh, I better order it. And between the time I ordered it and the time I got it, I noticed that, oh, there's not 1 left now. There's like hundreds. And so like I was able to add 200 units into my cart. Of course, I didn't buy that, but after I bought the one. So is it possible that that they got more stock in? It is, but it's also possible that because they do geo-targeting, they're a very sophisticated marketing company. So sometimes they'll even show different prices to people in different locations at different times.
Mhm.
It's very sophisticated marketing company. So it's possible that they knew that I visited that page this number of times, and they chose to show false scarcity to force me to buy it. And it worked. If that's what they did, good job. It's now in my basement. So, you know, these aren't marketing concepts that people start off thinking about when they start a business, but they should.
Yeah.
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 It's
Just to pivot back to something we spoke about before. So like, I guess maybe we could talk about the time horizon on developing like brand recognition, because like always the examples we talk about is like Coca-Cola or like IBM, or these companies that have been around forever. Like, how hard is it and how long does it take for a company starting out today to have any chance of getting any foothold with a brand identity? Because like, it does seem the companies that we put up as the best examples of it have also been around for hundreds of years. I don't know. I think that'd be interesting thing to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, how long? I mean, yeah, years. I mean, it's like how long? Because Amazon was 98. They had been around for what was it, 10 years? When did Amazon start? And even then, even after 10 years, they weren't like a household name, was it? I can't remember, but it was like 10 years and.
Yeah, like mid 90s maybe, or early 90s.
Yeah, they started off as cadabra.com. Believe it or not. And then one of Jeff Bezos's lawyers misheard him and asked, "Why are we calling it cadaver? Isn't that a dead body?" So they changed it, and they just went with, you know, Amazon.com. But Cadabra kind of referred to like the magic of the internet. So like that name would not have lasted long, because now no one thinks the internet is magic. But 20 years ago, it felt like magic, right? So that brand has changed a lot. Also, the function of the company. They started off selling books.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and then they evolved into third party, and then with FBA, the integration, you know, the integrated shipping and customer service of fulfillment by Amazon, really just got them into every business possible. You know, they're taking little percentages, well, sometimes big percentages of every single transaction, millions and millions of transactions, charging storage fees. You know, so very quickly they became a facilitator of all goods and a logistics company, really, and that has paid well for them.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I was listening to an interview. I think it was in '98, and they're like, "But you're not a pure internet company now." He's like, "Well, that doesn't matter to me." You know, they're like, "You have 1,000 square foot warehouses." He's like, "But that's not my main point. Like, I'm not trying to be an only internet company. I'm trying to serve my clients, and if I have warehouses near them, I can ship them their stuff in 2 days, and that's adding value to them. So I'm not really like it's like he's not really like stuck on, oh, I'm only going to be internet because of my own pleasure. It's just I want to serve them, and I want them to have a fantastic customer experience, and that's what we focus on. So I'm not focused on only doing internet, because I think the guy was just like criticizing him for not only like being a pure internet company.
It would be funny to look that interview up now, like if that interview happened in '98, like I wonder how that guy feels about Amazon now today, because it all worked out. Like Bezos and company recognized a potential, like, hey, we can take these people and we can hold their stuff. And really what it is they can streamline the whole process. They can move the products better, and it's logistics better than anyone else, really. And they saw a need in the market, and they met it, and they have been rewarded time and time again handsomely for it. As a matter of fact, no one else is doing it still. There's no integrated, there's not another company where you can send your goods into their warehouse. They'll distribute them throughout the country, and then they'll fulfill the orders. They'll handle the customer service. They'll handle the returns. That doesn't exist. Walmart's getting close. It's not there yet.
Walmart, I was gonna say.
Right. They're not there.
Walmart, like we've actually And I used to be like super against, Walmart. And then now I'm like, well, they're definitely competing. They're definitely trying. Like can't remember what we ordered a couple weeks ago, and it arrived in 2 days. And I'm like, oh, they are working hard. And because it's like, if you think about it, retail stores are a warehouse, so it's like, they already have huge warehouses everywhere in every corner.
They do. And well, not only the huge retail stores, they also own Sam's Club, also huge warehouses, and then they have actual warehouses as well. So this whole logistics thing and driving costs out of the just-in-time inventory, that was invented by Walmart. Amazon should be afraid of Walmart and probably no one else really at this point.
Yeah.
It could change in a year.
It's a great thing for consumers. Having that competition between Amazon and Walmart will mean you'll get better services for less, better selection. That's a great thing. That same thing with you, Angelica. I used to not like Walmart. Now I'm like rooting for them. I'm really rooting for them.
Now they're like the little guy, right?
The little guy, Walmart.
Walmart.
Let's all start a GoFundMe for Walmart.
But I kind of
Donate.
Brendan's question about, like you're talking about Coca-Cola or IBM or any of these huge companies that are now no longer, well, they're still doing B2B, but they're now doing B2C, right? So they're like going directly to the customers now. So what chance does a little guy coming onto the market selling a new soda brand or, computer brand or new headphones, like what chance do they have when you see Nike on Amazon, or you see, Coca-Cola starting their own website selling directly to customers?
Right. Yeah. Like now it started, I remember, when I was like, I don't know, like 21 or something. And then I my whole thing was always like, oh, I need to start an online business, and my boyfriend at the time, he used to spray paint t-shirts. And then it was like hip hop t-shirts. And then I was like, oh, well, let's sell your t-shirts online. And then we just like, created a website, and then we put up his shirts, and then we did a Google ads, and we sold a shirt for $50 the very next day. And I think we spent like $5 or something like that. And I was like, oh my God, like it was like really magic. But we stopped doing it because we weren't serious about it. Like we weren't like committed to it. But now, like I think about it now, and I'm like, that would never happen. Like you spend $5 and then the next day you so it's like, I think with time, it gets so saturated that it's almost like impossible unless you have the time or financial resources, like either, and even without, even like you can't, like you have to have some sort of like financial, like resources to get it off the ground.
I'd agree. I think that part of it, especially if you're a smaller company with a tighter budget and you're trying to build a brand, you really need to focus down. Like if you're starting a soda company, you better have millions and millions and millions of dollars that you can dump into branding. But if you're starting a soda company for dogs, you need less.
Right.
That product isn't going to be as popular, but I bet people will still buy it. I'd buy it.
Exactly. So it's about like niching down, right? Like that's what, so if you don't have a large budget, you can't say, my audience is everyone, and
Right.
So,
like you can't go head to head with Coca-Cola or Pepsi or maybe Royal Crown. Are they still around? RC? Maybe not. That might be too much of a throwback. All right.
That's like what you guys are talking about is like the long tail theory, right? So like obviously like soda and shoes, that's at the front of the long tail where there's huge demand. There'll be huge market players that'll dominate those spaces. But the end of that long tail of all these little niches as an aggregate actually adds up to more than the front of the tail, than these huge, industries and huge markets. So I think, in that regard, yeah, you probably can build a brand fairly quickly that serves a very particular niche. But I think, yeah, it's going to be very difficult anytime soon to build a company and rival the branding of, centuries old companies that invented the Santa Claus, like, Coca-Cola, which is I didn't even know that actually. It's
just a crazy, like when you think about some of the things these companies have done and the impact just through marketing and branding, the impact they've had on how we live our lives, even how we speak, even as much as changing the English language, adding words. It's crazy that came from marketing, but it really has in many cases.
Adding words, adding holidays, Prime Day. That's like, you've made it when you can make it a holiday.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
There'll
yeah.
be Liaison Day and Trumble Day.
Yeah, Trumbull Day. What? That's when everyone gets a McRib.
Angela, I want to give you the stage a little bit to talk about what you're doing now, because I know you said that you kind of got sick of graphic art and that you want to move into a new direction. So why don't you tell us what you're doing now and how we can find you if we need your services?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like I didn't get sick of graphic design in the sense like I don't want to, do graphic design. It's just like the actual like a position at a company, doing 9 to 5 graphic design. That's just not for me, and I try to do that, and but what I did, and it's not like I'm pivoting from graphic design. It's just that I'm integrating, what I know from graphic design with branding, and then I'm also, so what I find is that whenever I get graphic design clients, they're like, hey, I just did some labels for a woman that she's starting a shisha brand, right? Like, so tobacco for hookahs. And so she's like, yeah, I'm going to need, flyers, and I'm going to need t-shirts, and I'm going to need the labels, right? And as much as I want to start just like designing all of that, for her, it's like, it's still the thinking of, 10 years ago, right? Like that flyers are actually going to bring her customers, or that, t-shirts are actually going to bring her customers. So as much as I want to design a bunch of like stuff for her, like she needs to, I want to tell her, hey, let's do, your labels. Let's, get your product ready. And then I can help you with your Shopify and getting traffic to that, to your product. So that seems more like more satisfying for me to actually like offer a client something that's going to actually start, delivering value for them. Like she's going to start, like getting sales faster than just me, saying, yes, I'll design t-shirts for you. Yes, I'll design flyers for you, knowing that that's not going to, give her a big return. She's just going to pile up those flyers and probably spend money or time, putting them on cards, and she's not going to get a call, So I think like knowing that and having all that knowledge of like, what a digital sales funnel is, like a landing page, an opt-in, like all of that I've spent, for like the past 5 years, just like learning it and doing it myself, and like in companies, and like that's so valuable for someone that's just coming to me and, hey, I just want a logo, and then I can add, all of these other services that have so much more value, than t-shirts and flyers. And so that's what I'm doing now. I have like a full service agency offering all of those together. So for small companies, I have, different packages that are just like kind of like do it yourself. I mean, all done for you. And then I just kind of like instruct them how to like keep up and like manage it themselves. And then for like bigger companies, we manage the ads, and then we, I have. So what I realized is like working in smaller companies, I was doing a contract at a dog supplement company. They're a manufacturer, and they're switching to e-commerce because obviously they see the need now. But what I saw is that they hire agencies, and the agency has either a really good programmer, like technical programmer, but they have an art director that makes really ugly looking, like really horrible, like things that, I was suffering like silently because I was looking at this, like the stuff that they were doing for them, and I was just doing graphic design work for them, so I'm like, oh my God, like this is a really bad website, and I would hear the like their conference calls, and the guy is telling them, well, the design is not really that important, like the functionality is a lot more important than this. So, and then they're like, okay, yeah, let's work on functionality. And I'm like, oh my God, like probably like and yes, functionality is important, but you have brands, you can't just, you know, and then it's a premium brand, like it has to be a premium looking, you know?
Right.
And so you can't just do one thing, and you can't have a beautiful website that doesn't function properly. So
Right.
some people are really good with like the branding, the visual aspect of it, and then they lack the technical aspect, and then some others are lacking in both. So with my experience, because I have, you know, like the visual training as a graphic designer, and like I've partnered with the people that are technical, because I'm not going to start, you know, doing your Facebook ads, right? So like I have like those two components that are like so important. Like I suffer when I was like suffering when I saw these people, you know, just like, and when you don't know, you know, it's like the sales director was leading the whole project. And he was like, that's a great looking website, isn't it? And I'm like, maybe in like the 90s. I mean, I didn't say that, you know,
Right.
but it's like, yeah, there's agencies out there that are doing really, really bad work, and they can get away with it because people can't, if you don't have a trained eye, you don't see it, you know? And if you don't know the technical aspects of it, like they'll give you something that, you know, and then you'll see like bugs later on, right? So yeah, so now I offer all of it, and it's satisfying because I can, you know, actually like educate and like tell them all the tools that there are out there, you know, that we have available to us to actually, you know, get start getting sales. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm doing.
That's awesome.
I love that you're passionate about it, and that you're a marketing person that also thinks about the bottom line, because I'll guarantee you every one of your clients is constantly thinking about the bottom line, but not often are there marketing people that talk about driving revenue or driving profitable growth and that sort of thing. So that's pretty awesome and unique. I'd imagine it's a great differentiator for you and your company.
Right. Yeah. Like some people, yeah. And I see that, you know, so like it's either you're really, really focused on like the beauty of it, or
Right.
the technical, or the like business. It's like, you know, it's really hard to find like those three components.
Right.
That someone's like, you know, taking in consideration like where you are in your business, and like how can we help you, you know, get to the next level without, you know, yeah, like, I don't know, just like breaking the bank. Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff, man.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on our show and sharing your wisdom with us. That was awesome explanation of branding, and I'm so glad to see years after we work together that you're doing just this awesome stuff, and that you're helping brands actually really build a brand as opposed to just putting I guess band-aids on some you know some wounds and then just saying, okay, you're good to go. So awesome stuff. Brendan, Dan, did you guys have any other questions for Angelica?
Yeah, I guess just maybe one last question. I don't know, drag on the podcast, but do you do any work, Angelica, with companies that are successful on Amazon that are trying to move off Amazon? And again, I know it's the end of the podcast, but maybe if you could just share that, because I know a lot of sellers are trying to diversify or trying to make a push off Amazon or Walmart, but they don't know how to, you know, build a website, build a brand identity off of Amazon. So
yeah, I mean, that's one of the things, and that's one of the reasons that, like, one of my motivators, right? So like people that are like shifting from either from manufacturers to e-commerce, or if they have, you know, successful Amazon, and now they want to, like, you know, leverage e-commerce, you know, like Shopify, for instance. Yes, like I would love to help people, you know, that are transitioning, and to like get, because it's like Amazon, those fees, it's like I don't know how people, you know, how people manage the fees, but yeah, I can help. I mean, it's definitely the same transition, right? So so yeah.
Cool.
So tell us one more time your name, your company, how to find you, best way to reach you.
So Angelica Hoyos, and then the company name is digital marketing. So ahdigitalmarketing.com.
Awesome. Well,
Thank you
thanks
so
everyone.
much.
Yeah, Dan, it's good to see you. Dan Trumbull Consulting and Mr. Brendan Fields with Rebate for Sellers. I'm McLean Warren with Liaison Marketing and all Amazon focused business that actually we're starting to expand outside of the Amazon world because we also are noticing a huge trend of people moving out of the Amazon space and onto other markets. So any one of us is great to know if you have an e-commerce business and are looking to expand. And thank you all for watching. And we'll see you next time on Rise and Shine.
Bye.